Choosing a place to live long-term is very different from choosing a place to visit. When people start thinking seriously about retirement, relocation, or slowing down later in life, priorities begin to shift. Beautiful scenery and low rent are still important, but they are no longer enough on their own. What begins to matter more is how manageable daily life really is. Can you see a doctor without stress? Can you fill prescriptions easily? Can routine healthcare be handled close to home? These questions shape real quality of life, especially for retirees, seniors, veterans, and anyone planning to live in Italy rather than simply travel through it. Italy has a strong public healthcare system, but access depends heavily on where you live. Some towns are charming, but isolated. Others are affordable, but inconvenient. The towns in this video were selected because they balance affordability with realistic healthcare access. This does not mean every town has a major hospital inside it. What it means is that residents can rely on local clinics, pharmacies, and general practitioners for everyday medical needs, while knowing that more advanced care is reasonably accessible when required. These are places where healthcare is part of daily life, not something that requires constant planning or long travel. Number 10. Giovinazzo, Puglia. Giovinazzo is a coastal town in Puglia that offers a practical and stable environment for long-term living. Within the town itself, residents have access to pharmacies, medical offices, and general practitioners who handle routine healthcare needs such as checkups, prescriptions, and referrals. This allows older residents to manage everyday medical care locally without needing to travel far for basic services. For many people, this kind of everyday access is what makes a town truly livable. The layout of Giovinazzo is compact and relatively flat, which makes it easier to move between home, shops, and healthcare services on foot. This supports independence and reduces physical strain, especially for seniors. Daily errands can often be done without a car, and medical appointments feel like part of a normal routine rather than a disruption. Housing costs in Giovinazzo remain reasonable for a coastal town. Modest apartments typically rent between 500 and 700 euros per month, depending on size and location. Daily living expenses are manageable, particularly for those who rely on Italy's public healthcare system and shop locally. Food, utilities, and basic services remain affordable compared to larger cities or more tourist-driven areas. Giovinazzo suits people who want a calm seaside lifestyle while still feeling secure about healthcare access. It is not flashy or fast-paced, but it offers something far more important for long-term living: stability, routine, and the confidence that everyday medical needs can be handled close to home. Number 9. Polignano a Mare, Puglia. Polignano is often seen as a postcard town, but beyond the views, it also works as a practical place for long-term living. Within the town, residents have access to pharmacies, local medical offices, and general practitioners who handle routine healthcare needs. This allows everyday medical care to be managed locally, without turning each appointment into a long or stressful journey. For retirees and seniors, this kind of access is essential for maintaining independence and peace of mind. The town center is compact, and many residential areas are located within short walking distance of essential services. Pharmacies, grocery stores, cafes, and medical offices are clustered in areas that support daily routines. While parts of the town include elevation changes, many residents choose housing in more accessible zones where movement is easier and daily life feels less demanding. Housing costs in Polignano are higher than some inland towns, but long-term rentals are still attainable. Modest apartments typically range between 600 and 850 euros per month, especially outside peak tourist areas. Daily living expenses remain manageable when focusing on local shops and everyday routines rather than visitor-oriented services. Polignano a Mare suits residents who want coastal living while still having dependable access to healthcare and daily necessities. Number 8. Gallipoli, Puglia. Gallipoli is a coastal town that combines affordability with practical healthcare access for long-term residents. Within the town, There are multiple pharmacies, local clinics, and general practitioners who support routine medical needs. This means residents can manage prescriptions, regular checkups, and minor health concerns without leaving town. For older residents, this level of local access reduces stress and helps daily life feel more stable. Gallipoli's layout is relatively compact, particularly in residential areas where most everyday services are located. This makes it easier to move around town without long distances or constant use of transportation. Many residents can complete daily errands, including healthcare visits, within a small area. Rental prices in Gallipoli remain reasonable for a seaside location. Long-term apartments often rent between €550 and €800 per month, depending on size and proximity to the coast. Living expenses stay moderate when focusing on local markets and services rather than seasonal tourism. Gallipoli appeals to people who want affordable coastal living with healthcare access that feels integrated into everyday life, rather than separate from it. Number 7. Ostuni, Puglia. Ostuni is well known for its historic center, but for long-term residents, daily life often takes place in the surrounding residential areas where things are more practical. These parts of town offer access to pharmacies, medical offices, and general practitioners who handle routine healthcare needs. For retirees and seniors, this means regular checkups, prescriptions, and basic care can be managed locally without unnecessary travel. While the old town itself sits on elevated ground, many residents choose housing in flatter zones where daily movement is easier. These neighborhoods are designed around everyday living, with grocery stores, markets, and healthcare services located close together. This makes it possible to build a routine that feels manageable and predictable. Rental prices in Ostuni vary depending on location, but modest long-term apartments outside the historic center are often available between €550 and €800 per month. Living expenses remain moderate, especially for those who rely on Italy's public healthcare system and shop locally. Ostuni works well for people who want a town with character and community, as long as they choose housing with accessibility in mind. It offers a balance between affordability and dependable access to everyday healthcare services. Number 6. Ragusa Ibla, Sicily. Ragusa Ibla offers a slower pace of life supported by reliable access to everyday healthcare services. Within the town and nearby residential areas, residents have access to pharmacies, medical offices, and general practitioners who manage routine medical needs. This allows older residents to handle regular care without constant planning or long-distance travel. The town includes some elevation changes, but much of daily life takes place within compact areas where essential services are relatively close together. Residents often organize their routines around nearby shops, markets, and healthcare services, which helps daily life feel more stable and less demanding. Housing costs in Ragusa Ibla remain reasonable for a historic town. Modest long-term apartments typically rent between €500 and €750 per month. Daily living expenses are manageable, particularly for those who rely on public healthcare and local services, rather than tourist-focused options. Ragusa Ibla suits residents who value calm surroundings, predictable routines, and healthcare access that supports everyday living rather than occasional convenience. Number 5. Cefalù, Sicily. Cefalù is a coastal town in Sicily that works well for long-term living when healthcare access is part of the decision. Within the town, residents have access to pharmacies, local clinics, and general practitioners who manage routine medical needs such as prescriptions, basic checkups, and referrals. For retirees and seniors, this allows everyday healthcare to be handled locally without the need for constant planning or long travel. Much of daily life in Cefalù takes place in flatter areas near the coast, where residential neighborhoods, shops, and medical services are located close together. This supports a more manageable routine, especially for those who prefer shorter walking distances and predictable daily patterns. Residents often organize their days around nearby markets, cafes, and healthcare services, which helps life feel steady and familiar. Housing costs in Cefalù are higher than in some inland towns, but long-term rentals are still attainable. Modest apartments typically range between 650 and 900 euros per month, particularly outside peak tourist periods. Daily living expenses remain manageable for those who rely on local services and Italy's public healthcare system. Cefalù appeals to residents who want coastal living combined with dependable access to everyday healthcare and a lifestyle that supports comfort and independence rather than constant activity. Number 4. Ischia, Campania. Ischia offers a unique environment for long-term living, especially for those who value healthcare access within a contained and well-supported setting. Within Ischia, residents have access to pharmacies, medical clinics, and general practitioners who handle routine healthcare needs. This allows prescriptions, regular checkups, and minor treatments to be managed without leaving the island. Town centers on Ischia are designed around daily convenience, with essential services located close to residential areas. Many parts of the island are relatively flat and walkable, especially around the main living zones where healthcare services are concentrated. For seniors and retirees, this reduces the physical effort required to manage daily life and healthcare routines. Rental prices on Ischia vary depending on location, but modest long-term apartments can often be found between 650 euros and 950 euros per month outside peak tourist seasons. Living expenses remain reasonable for residents who focus on local routines rather than visitor-oriented services. Ischia suits people who want a slower pace of life while still feeling secure about healthcare access as part of everyday living. Number 3. Tropea, Calabria. Tropea is a coastal town in Calabria that offers a good balance between affordability and access to everyday healthcare services. Within the town, residents have access to pharmacies and local medical offices that support routine care such as prescriptions, basic consultations, and follow-up visits. For retirees and seniors, this means everyday healthcare needs can be addressed locally without frequent long-distance travel. Tropea's layout includes elevated historic sections, but many residents choose housing in lower, more accessible areas near the coast. These neighborhoods are easier to navigate and closer to everyday services, including healthcare providers, grocery stores, and cafes. This allows residents to build routines that feel manageable and consistent. Housing costs in Tropea remain affordable for a seaside town. Long-term rentals typically range between 500 and 750 euros per month, depending on size and location. Daily living expenses stay moderate, especially for those relying on public healthcare and local markets. Tropea suits people who want coastal living with healthcare access that supports daily stability rather than occasional convenience. Number 2. Castellabate, Campania. Castellabate offers a peaceful living environment with dependable access to everyday healthcare services. Within the town and surrounding residential areas, residents have access to pharmacies, medical offices, and general practitioners who handle routine healthcare needs such as prescriptions and regular checkups. This allows older residents to manage healthcare as part of their normal routine. While parts of Castellabate are elevated, many residential zones are more accessible and located closer to essential services. Residents often choose housing based on ease of movement and proximity to healthcare and daily needs. This flexibility makes Castellabate suitable for long-term living, especially for retirees who prioritize comfort and predictability. Rental prices in Castellabate remain reasonable for a coastal area, with modest apartments often available between 550 euros and 800 euros per month. Daily living expenses are manageable when focusing on local services, rather than seasonal tourism. Castellabate appeals to those who want a calm lifestyle supported by healthcare access that feels reliable and integrated into everyday life. Number 1. Ortigia, Sicily. Ortigia stands out as one of the most practical towns in Italy when it comes to combining affordability with everyday healthcare access. As the historic heart of Syracuse, Ortigia functions as a compact and well-organized living environment where essential services are woven into daily life. Within Ortigia itself, residents have access to multiple pharmacies, local clinics, and general practitioners who handle routine healthcare needs, such as prescriptions, checkups, and follow-up care. This allows medical needs to be managed locally without turning each appointment into a stressful or time-consuming task. One of Ortigia's strongest advantages is its layout. The island is small and walkable, with shops, markets, cafes, and healthcare services located within short distances of residential areas. For seniors and retirees, this reduces physical strain and supports independence. Daily routines can be built around nearby services, making life feel predictable and manageable rather than demanding. Housing costs in Ortigia vary depending on location and condition, but long-term rentals are still attainable. Modest apartments typically range between 600 and 900 euros per month, especially outside peak tourist seasons. Daily living expenses remain reasonable for those who shop locally and rely on Italy's public healthcare system. Ortigia offers a lifestyle where healthcare access feels integrated into everyday living, rather than something that requires planning or compromise. For long-term residents, this balance of affordability, accessibility, and medical support makes Ortigia one of the most practical choices in Italy. Choosing a place to live long-term is ultimately about comfort, stability, and confidence in daily life. While beauty and affordability matter, healthcare access often determines whether a place truly works over time. The towns featured in this video were selected because they offer realistic healthcare support through local clinics, pharmacies, and general practitioners, while still remaining affordable and livable. These are not luxury destinations or idealized retirement spots. They are real towns where people manage everyday routines, see doctors when needed, and live within their means. In each of these places, healthcare is part of normal life rather than a challenge that requires constant travel or stress. Italy still offers towns where living costs remain manageable and healthcare access supports independence as people age. By choosing locations that balance affordability with dependable medical services, it becomes possible to enjoy life in Italy with peace of mind and long-term comfort. For retirees, seniors, veterans, and anyone planning a serious move, these towns represent realistic options where quality of life is shaped by practicality rather than fantasy.